The following program and contents, including the views and opinions expressed by the host and any guest speakers, are solely for informational and entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed are not endorsed or supported by Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, or advertisers. The host and guest speakers are solely responsible for their own perspectives, and their views do not reflect those of Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, or advertisers. The information provided in this program should not be considered as professional advice or as a substitute for professional consultation. Listeners and viewers are encouraged to form their own opinions and seek independent advice when necessary. Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, and advertisers hereby disclaim any liability for any claims, damages, or losses incurred as a result of the information presented in this program.
Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Wouldn't it be amazing to manifest at will? What if manifestation is not a mystical fantasy, but actual science? Are you interested in hearing about it? Mission Evolution Radio TV show is coming to you around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net. With us this hour to uncover the science behind manifestation is Morry Zelcovitch. Morry is the world's only certified brainwave entrainment engineer, pioneering transformative techniques that unlock the mind's potential. Through decades of research, his groundbreaking Morry Method helps individuals worldwide achieve clarity, reduce stress, and enhance performance naturally. His website, mindtrainer-pro.com. Morry, thank you so much for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Thanks for having me, Gwilda. I appreciate the opportunity to share my unique experience with everyone out there.
All right. So, what's your educational background, Morry?
Well, I have an honors degree in psychology, a minor in sociology. My real education was 40 years of wanting to be dead with 6 suicide attempts and multiple self-harm injuries. That was my real education, though.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds horrible. So your bio says you're the world's only certified brainwave entrainment engineer. If you're the only one, where did you receive your certification?
Well, self-certified. Doctors, there had to be the first doctor. There had to be the first psychiatrist. There had to be the first of everything. I am the first of my kind. When I was going through my life, depressed, anxious, spiteful, hateful, disgusted, annoyed, aggravated, I could go on and on and on. You better stop me sooner or later. This is not an unlimited time frame. But when I was going through all of that, I realized I needed help, and I couldn't find help anywhere else, so I had to create it. And that's why I am the world's only of my kind, because I spent 40 years looking for something to help me, and nothing did. So I had to invent it myself.
What exactly is brainwave entrainment engineer?
So the best way to explain brainwave entrainment is to make it relatable to people. So, Gwilda, you listen to music, I'm assuming?
Of course.
And I would expect most of the people watching or listening to this also listen to music. Have you ever noticed that you would be tapping your toes without really thinking about it, bopping your head without really thinking about it? You're just kind of doing it.
Hmm.
Well, that's a form of entrainment. You're actually entraining or following the frequency of the music that you're listening to. It happens automatically, autonomously. And what happens is that there are certain benefits and there's certain results that we get from that. So what I do is, instead of music, because music is unfocused, I focus on the neurons, on the brain cells. And by getting the brain cells to behave similarly to the tapping of the toes, I allow them to create special chemistry, because depending on the region of the brain the neuron exists in and how many times it's flickering on and off per second, that dictates the kind of chemistry it produces. And believe it or not, it's the chemistry that makes you feel anything you feel or experience anything you experience. If you're happy, if you're bored, if you're excited, if you're turned on, you're turned off, angry, whatever you are, you don't experience it without your brain creating chemistry that allows you to feel that way. So I help people to feel differently and better by altering subtly their brainwave activity, which then alters their chemistry, which then alters their experience.
So what modality do you use to do it? I know, ancient peoples used to use drumming or didgeridoos or that sort of thing to put people into trance. Is it similar to that?
It's audio technology primarily, but I use visual stimulation as well. It's really all about vibration. So the neuron behaves by turning on and off, on and off, on and off. So that's what we do with our signals. Our brainwave entrainment frequencies are like bop, 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 that kind of thing. So they're on and off, on and off. And the idea is to get the brain cell to follow that frequency. And in that way, we can actually allow it to have an experience that we want it to experience, as opposed to something that is out of or beyond our control.
Well, that sounds like something that could be misused in the wrong hands.
It's funny. I tried various technologies that I've been working on, and a few of them I actually had to take an axe to my hard drive because I didn't want to have this tech get out. So I burned all my notes, and I, just like a spy movie, I burned all my notes and I destroyed the hard drive. That being said, it is a natural process for your brain to produce these neurochemicals, and it's a natural process for your brain to have different frequencies happening all the time. The trick is to allow the brain into a natural state. It's not supernatural, but it's to bring it back to a natural state where it can achieve stable frequencies that are dominant for periods of time longer than a second or two. Most of your viewership and listenership are familiar with looking at an EEG, where you see someone's brain and it's like glowing different colors on and off, on and off, on and off. That's not actually how it's supposed to be. Because think about it, every time it lights up and goes dim and lights up and goes dim, it's releasing chemistry. But nature designed us to be more stable in our frequencies. When we're stable, we release more of the beneficial chemistry. We cope better, we are happier, we feel better.
So what's causing the instability?
Look at life around you. How about this thing? How about politics? How about war? How about disease? How about taxes? How about relationships? There's too many things going on all at the same time. We don't have the opportunity to have our brains focused on any one thing or another. That's why we're flighty. We go and we light up dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. Imagine driving a car and all the fluid levels are low. Now drive the same car, but all the fluid levels are topped right up and they're clean. The car with the topped up fluids is going to operate better, more efficiently, and more effectively. It works the same way with the brain. So our brain is forced to function in unopportune circumstances, shall we say, unnatural circumstances. We're not supposed to be stressed out all the time. Stress is supposed to be an advantageous effect that saves our lives when we're, attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, so to speak. It's not designed to be something that we experience nonstop 24/7. And unfortunately, for most people on this planet, stress is something we experience 24/7. Leads to all kinds of physiological problems, overweight, eating disorders, psychological disorders, heart attacks. I mean, I'm not making medical statements here, but like, do searches, use AI, go on to medical journals. You can find all kinds of evidence showing that stress and anxiety in some fashion or another might be the leading cause of death and physical problems in most people's lives.
So, not to be into conspiracy here, but it sounds like the stress and the situation that we have going on right now that's interfering with our stability could be intentionally imposed. Is that going on? Do you know?
So I don't really deal with that. I deal with the helping people to help themselves aspect of things. It's very easy to go off into the conspiracy theory. As an example, back in the late 1930s, there's a family that most of us would recognize the last name called Rothschilds. And music used to be tuned, the letter A or the note of A used to be tuned to 432 hertz. Now it's 440 hertz. And apparently it was lobbied to become 440 hertz in the late 30s by the Rothschilds. So ordinarily I would say, yeah, who cares? But then you think incredibly rich family that's been incredibly rich for centuries suddenly wants us to change how we hear our music. You have to ask yourself why. And my suspicion would be they want to keep the weak weak. They want to keep the poor poor. So maybe there's something to do with it there. I have no evidence to back that up, but it's a question. I think the best thing any of us can do is not necessarily go off on the conspiracy highway, but ask questions. I look at the brain as a central processing unit, not as a hard drive. And I think too many people today treat their brain like a hard drive. They turn on the news, they listen to what is said, and they believe it unequivocally. There's no argument, there's no thought process, there's no questioning. We have brains. Our brains are designed to function in the form of figuring things out, processing information. Don't accept anything, including what I'm saying, by the way. Take it in, reformat it, reinterpret it, reimagine it, do a little homework, a little research, figure it out for yourself, and then decide whether you want to believe in something or not. Don't just listen because someone in authority tells you something. In my view, if someone in authority tells you, there's a pretty good reason not to listen to them.
I can certainly understand that point of view. So, outside of your own personal studies, are there any studies on this brainwave entrainment that you're doing?
Yeah. So there've been a couple of major studies, one by a Brazilian university and the military there, as well as a Jamaican university on various aspects of my particular brainwave entrainment. But if anyone knows, there's a website called Google Scholar. It's not the traditional Google. It's actually a scholarly website where they have research papers and documents and things that are more legitimate, as opposed to, Jones Lingerie Shop says this is what's going on Mars, which there's too much of in the regular Google. But if you do that and you type in brainwave entrainment and stress, brainwave entrainment and anxiety, brainwave entrainment and relationships, you'll see there's literally hundreds of thousands of articles and papers on this topic. Our brains rule our lives. If it doesn't pass through your brain, you don't know it's there. Brainwave entrainment is one way to get your brain to optimally perform. It doesn't program you. It doesn't tell you what to think. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it optimizes it so that it works better. If we go back to the analogy of the car, it takes a car that's running rough and it allows it to run smoothly. That means the travel or the information you're processing is likely to be smoother and easier to understand and easier to use in your everyday life.
So, are we kind of like short circuiting at this point with all the misfiring you were describing?
I would say, in my, biased opinion, it's not that we're short circuiting. I would say we're overloading. And I would say that might be on purpose. We are given way too many things to do all at once. The swiping, swipe, 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 swipe. 15 different social networks, 45 different news networks, this different, that different. There's too much going on. And, I wonder if that's planned or if it just happens to be that our technology is moving faster than our physical evolution. So it gets overwhelming. I
Well,
think some people
It's
With
time for us to take a station break. Morry and I will return very shortly, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. How does one entrain their brain? With us this hour discussing brainwave enhancement and entrainment is Morry Zelcovitch. I'm having a terrible time with my mouth. Zelcovitch. His website, mindtrainer-pro.com. Morry, we were talking about studies briefly, and I take it, have done a fair amount of studies on your own experience with brain entrainment. What have they shown?
So I don't do peer-reviewed research myself because it's not important for me to have some other scientist agree with me or disagree with me. I think it's more important that people experience what I'm trying to help them experience, and that matters to me much more than getting accolades or getting awards or even having other scientists agree with what I happen to say, because quite frankly, I disagree with pretty much everything traditional science says with respect to the brain and psychology and how we think and why we think. Uh, that being said, what I have learned more than anything else is that for me, at least, there's no such thing as fact and there's no such thing as truth. Now, I'm not trying to convince anybody else that they should think this way, but I used to be the kind of person who would wait for you to stop talking so I could tell you how wrong you are. Now, I think of it this way. I think each individual lives in their own universe. Words don't mean the same thing for me that they do for you. Colors don't look the same to me as they do to you. Nothing has the same meaning. Quantum physics, at its most basic level, to my current understanding, says nothing exists until it's observed. The thing with us humans is we observe things, but we also give them meaning. We define them. So if I see something you see, but I define it differently, then I'm actually seeing something different. Does that make you wrong? No. It makes you right, but it also makes me right, even though we see two totally different things. With this kind of an attitude, I no longer judge people. I no longer wait for them to shut up so I can tell them how wrong they are. Instead, I say, they live in a different universe. They see things different. There's different laws that apply in their universe than apply in mine. That means I can learn from them. So you're always right. I'm never wrong. There is no truth. There is no fact. In my experience, in my research, and in my experience, I've noticed that things that were truthful, or if people thought were facts or truth 100 years ago, 200 years ago, are no longer truth. Well, how can it be truth if it isn't immutable, if it isn't forever? Well, it can't be. So that's why truth doesn't exist and fact doesn't exist. They can't exist. They used to drill holes in women's heads who were deemed hysterical to allow the evil spirits out. This was truth. There's skulls with holes in it, female skulls with holes in them to let the evil spirits out. As we get better measuring tools, as we learn more, as we get better understanding, we see things differently. Look at telescopes. When the Hubble telescope went up, we thought, oh, look at all this brilliant information we're getting that we never had before. Now there's the James Webb telescope and other telescopes that see even deeper and more detail. We learn new things. We see things differently. That's what changes. There is no
So,
fact, there is no truth. There is only understanding. And as long as we keep that idea, we move forward and we evolve. When we stop thinking like that, we stop listening, we stop learning, we stop evolving.
let's apply this to more than one person agreeing on something they're experiencing. What does that have? What's the effect of that on perceived reality?
Well, the problem gets back to something we were talking about before, where I believe people aren't processing information. Instead, they're just accepting it. And that's a mistake. because we're designed to process. We're not designed to be just mindless automatons that when our hard drive fills up, we bounce into walls and someone downloads our information and we move on to whatever's next. So I think, but keep in mind, that's my view of the universe. Your view of the universe might be different. And yours is just as reasonable and just as logical and makes just as much sense. And actually, according to quantum physics, really exists for you. Some people believe in God. Some people don't believe in God. Some people believe in various types of gods. Does that mean one is right and one is wrong? Or one is right and everybody else is wrong? I used to think so. Now I don't. Now I think everybody's right.
So, what does brainwave entrainment? How does it relate? How does it impact perceived reality?
So these are blue light glasses and they're tinted yellow. So I put them on and they block blue light and I see things differently. That's how brainwave entrainment affects reality. This is not reality. This is a slide I'm throwing over my eyes to change my perception of reality. Brainwave entrainment allows one, in my current understanding, allows one to experience their reality their way without the imposition of other people's belief systems thrown on top of it. It allows me and those I deal with and work with to connect with themselves as opposed to connecting with other people who may not think the same way, who may not interpret things the same way. I can't tell you how many times when I was younger, I would have arguments with people. I would argue one side, they would argue the other side. And then after 3 hours of being at each other's throats, we realized we were actually saying the same thing, just using different words.
So, if brainwave entrainment is so powerful, why don't we hear about it?
That is an excellent question because it happens all the time. Have you ever driven your car and you don't remember the whole drive home? You know those little white lines that are broken up on the road? Depending on how fast you go, that's a flicker rate that helps to entrain your brain. That's one of the reasons it's called highway hypnosis, but it's really entrainment. Entrainment happens all the time. Like I said, you listen to music, you tap your toes. Why don't we know about it? Too many people probably don't ask the question why. See, you asked the question why. That's a good question. People need to ask questions why. When they just accept things, they're not thinking. When they ask questions, that's when thought comes into play. Understanding comes into play. I needed to understand why I felt the way I felt. Then once I got an understanding of that, I needed to figure out a way to influence that understanding so I could feel better. Why, how? That's what led me to ask about it and learn about brainwave entrainment.
So, exactly, what do you do to entrain a brain? Or, what do you do? What's it look like?
So there's two main ways. There's audio and visual, and sometimes you mix the two together. Uh, with audio, put on a pair, I don't have a pair handy, but a pair of ordinary over-the-ear stereo headphones. That's it. Hit play, comfortable volume. You hear the shh sound, you hear the ba 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 sound. Occasionally, depending on the recording, you'll hear me speaking to you here, and here at the same time, depending on what effect we want to accomplish. And that's it. It's really that simplistic.
So, how is
There's
that
nothing to
different
worry about.
than modalities like tapping, say, for instance?
Tapping requires you doing something. To some degree, it also relies on you understanding or believing in something. Brainwave entrainment doesn't require anything on your part except putting on a pair of headphones. You can even go to sleep while
But what you're doing is you're putting on a pair of headphones, listening to something somebody else has created.
it's designed to create a circumstance in your brain where your brain wants to follow those frequencies. That's what entrainment is. By following those frequencies in a dominant fashion, you release dominant brainwave activity, which unleashes dominant chemistry. It's that chemistry that allows you to feel and experience whatever it is you're choosing to feel and experience. So, yes, I am some force on the outside influencing some force on your inside, but I am not telling you what to think or what to do. There's nothing for you to read. There's nothing for you to learn. There's nothing for you to practice. This all happens automatically based on natural processes in your brain,
But
how
you
your
are
brain
you are
functions.
stimulating the brain to make different, neurotransmitters or different,
Sure,
chemicals or whatever, and
that's
that
true.
has a very, predictable, I assume, effect. So how's that different?
Well, how's that different than what?
How's that different than somebody imposing something on someone else?
Oh, well, first of all, you're making the choice to do it as opposed to having it imposed upon you.
Well, I make the choice to watch the news too.
That's true. And you can choose not to if the news is disrupting your life or making you anxious. But with me, when I started listening to these recordings, I stopped watching the news. I didn't try to stop watching the news. I just stopped doing things that annoyed me. It just happened naturally. See, I believe that the human mind and the human brain are designed to feel good. That's why feeling good feels good and feeling
So
bad feels bad.
is there something, is it somehow related? Is there something in nature that can have the same effect? I
Oh,
understand
of
that it can
course.
change. Okay, so
Yeah.
tell me, show me examples of how what you're providing can be met in nature.
Well, what I'm providing specifically isn't met in nature to the same degree. It's kind of taking what is natural and it's superpowering it by making it more repetitive. So, for instance, it's the ba 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 sound that occurs in nature. Woodpeckers make that sound. Waves washing in and out from the ocean make a beat as well. It's like whoosh,
But they're different beats,
whoosh,
right?
whoosh. Well, it depends on the time of day. It depends on all kinds of things. What we do is we take the understanding of how these natural effects and events affect the brain, and then we create specific systems that mimic that, but also make it stronger because we can make it stronger with our intention and with our technology. We can make it more stable than it might show up in nature. But this is a totally natural event that occurs. Entrainment happens all the time in people's lives, whether they agree with it or not, whether they understand it or not. It's like when you inhale, you're breathing in all kinds of chemicals and you're breathing in all kinds of oxygen and carbon dioxide and all kinds of different things. Your blood picks up oxygen particles and nutritional value and it runs your blood is like a train. It transports everything to different parts of your body where then they get transferred there and then they get used. None of this are things that you think about doing. It all happens automatically. That's what happens with entrainment. But when we understand the automatic and autonomic responses and how it happens and what happens as a result, we can then create something with our intention that takes advantage of these natural processes to bring about benefits. And yes, I suppose people could use it to bring about negative things too, but that's not something I deal with. That's not what I'm looking for. This brought me back from the abyss, from 40 years of hating life, from 40 years of hating people, and 40 years of hating everything around me, from wanting to be dead forever to wanting to be alive forever. That's what I work on. I don't work on the other stuff.
So how many brainwave technologies are there out there?
Probably as many as there are people. I mean, there's tons. There's tons. There's ones that utilize light primarily, ones that utilize audio, light and sound, music, different forms of music. There's ambient music. There's all kinds of different things. Everything affects the brain. Believe it or not, sitting straight with holding my head up affects my brainwave activity because I'm sending signals to my brain all the time to tense certain muscles so that it holds my head up. If I wasn't doing that, my head might just do that.
Well, we're going to have to take another station break. Maury and I will be right back to continue our discussion. So stay
Great.
right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
The following program and contents including the views and opinions expressed by the host and any guest speakers, are solely for informational and entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed are not endorsed or supported by Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, or advertisers. The host and guest speakers are solely responsible for their own perspectives, and their views do not reflect those of Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, or advertisers. The information provided in this program should not be considered as professional advice or as a substitute for professional consultation. Listeners and viewers are encouraged to form their own opinions and seek independent advice when necessary. Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, their employees, affiliates, and advertisers hereby disclaim any liability for any claims, damages, or losses incurred as a result of the information presented in this program.
Is brainwave entrainment a one and done? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us discussing brain enhancement is Morry Zelcovitch. His website, mindtrainer-pro.com. Morry, is brainwave entrainment a one-shot deal, or do you have to continue to use it to get consistent results?
No, there's a lot of techniques out there that say that they have instantaneous results, and they might. They might very well do that. There are many that say there's one thing, you do it at once and you're fine, everything's perfect. Brainwave entrainment is not like that. Brainwave entrainment is like exercise. I treat the brain like a muscle. And just like any muscle, doing 10 sit-ups today isn't going to do much. But if I do 10 sit-ups 3 times a day, every day, that might give me some pretty good results after some time. It works the same with the brain. So the brain is a muscle. It needs to be exercised on a regular basis. That being said, you don't have to necessarily, for instance, I have lots of clients who use my recordings every day to begin with. And then when they achieve what they're looking to achieve, when they're getting into the states that they want to get into, they cut back their usage to once or twice a week, and they find that's enough to maintain their results.
So
But
what
stopping
are the
entirely,
results?
well, that's as varied as there are people. For me, it was my loss of depression. It was my ability to enjoy life, my ability to be creative, my ability to have my own business. There were a lot of different results. Everybody's different because, frankly, the most important part of my systems, I don't mention in my work, like in my manuals. It's your brain. And you actually are your own guru. I believe you know everything you need to know, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. And when you start using the brainwave entrainment, you're naturally guided by yourself to do things by yourself that help you to help yourself.
Which brings me to a question I had from last segment. You brought up the concept of intention.
Yeah.
So, what part does intention play in this, and what happens when you change your intention while using it?
Well, intention is important, but it's not necessary. So I believe that you'll be guided by your own mind to whatever it is you need to accomplish. Sometimes intention can be distracting because if my intention is to be happier, then that, in my mind, is a pretty good intention. If my intention is to make $20 million because that will make me happier, that might be misdirection. Brainwave entrainment helps me to clarify these things. My clients as well. I've had lots of clients who use it for one purpose. They don't get that purpose. They call me up. They say, Morry, I enjoy listening, but I'm not getting the result I'm looking for. Well, what are you looking for? They end up telling me in the span of a 20-minute conversation, 10 things that have gotten better in their life, but it's not specifically what they were looking for. We don't always know what's right for us or what's better for us. Consciously,
We don't always consciously know what we really intend either, do we?
that
Like
is
like
correct.
the example you gave is created solutions to an assumed problem. Okay, so in other words, I want to be rich so that I can be loved. Well, what you really want is to be loved, right?
Well said. That's
Okay.
perfectly said.
So
Yeah.
then does that being the case, does brainwave are you saying that brainwave entrainment helps you cut through that and find the true intention?
I think it depends on the individual, whatever it is that they need. Sometimes people don't know what they want. They don't understand what it is that they need to do. And brainwave entrainment allows you to that inner search, that inner discovery. I think that's why it's so successful for me and so many of my clients isn't because it's so wonderful per se in that it tells you what to do and how to do it like so many other brilliant systems do. Instead, what entrainment does is it allows you the ability to self-discover what might be best for you.
So how does that differ from the ancient practice of meditation?
Well, again, meditation is something you have to do. Entrainment is something that you just let be done to you. Entrainment happens because of the frequency following response. There's a natural feature in every human brain that follows frequency. It's like I was telling you with music, you're bopping your head, you're tapping your toes, your neuron starts following these frequencies. Meditation is something you have to do. So I tried meditation. I tried probably 50 different varieties of meditation in my search to get out of my depression. None of them helped me, not because they're not brilliant or not fantastic, but because for me at least, is this working? Am I supposed to feel this? Am I feeling anything? What's going on? Am I supposed to this? Okay, other thoughts are coming into my head. What am I supposed to do with those thoughts? There was too much doubt. There was too much questioning, not enough just allowing myself to be. Brainwave entrainment took all of that away. Brainwave entrainment just put me into these states. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to judge myself. I didn't have to wonder, am I doing this right? Because there's nothing to do. Put on headphones, close your eyes, lie back, period. You want to think things? Think things. You don't think things? You don't think things. Time passes quickly, it passes fast, it passes slow, it passes slow. None of that matters. It all happens automatically. That's the biggest benefit in my view. Not saying it takes away anything from any of these other ways of doing things, but this is the lazy person's way, if you will, because it takes advantage of natural effects and events that occur in everybody's brain.
So can a person become overwhelmed by brainwave entrainment? And if so, what are your suggestions?
I think if you listen too loudly, it can be overwhelming. For at least my style of entrainment, volume has a lot to do with the power. So sometimes people will go, "Oh, well, volume is power. I'm going to blast it like it's a heavy metal concert." That's too much. That can be overwhelming. Also, brainwave entrainment is well known to be able to bring up repressed or otherwise unresolved issues, and that can be overwhelming. So I often suggest to people if they think there might be something like that going on, or if they're feeling uncomfortable, disconjointed at all, the old word is discombobulated, they kind of feel scattered, then they should take a break. And when they listen again, much quieter volume. The quieter volume, the less effect it has. But sometimes that's a good thing because you don't want to be overwhelmed by an onrush of these thoughts and feelings that may be buried and may be adversely affecting your life. It is better to get them out, I believe, but it's also better to get them out slowly and at a very easily manageable rate.
So let's take issues back to intention. The issues that are brought forth by the entrainment method, does that have to do with what you intended going in? Is that what stands between you and what you intended, say, for instance?
I think that depends on the person and their circumstance. I think it's as different as I truly believe people are their own guru. That's why my work isn't designed to teach you anything because there's nothing I can teach you. Even the super big experts in self-help, who I won't name, but everyone knows who they are, they can only create a system based on their experience. And their experience is governed by their religious upbringing, by their parents, by their friends, by their schooling, by their personal experiences with people. So if you're going to do something one of these experts is teaching you, remember to make it your own, reimagine it, reinterpret it, literally translate it into your own language, before you act on it, because that's the only way it's going to help you.
So like you said numerous times here, it absolutely depends on the individual. It varies individual to individual greatly. How can you study that to see its effectiveness if it's so different from person to person? There's no consistency.
Well, there is consistency in results. The type of results is what varies because everybody's different. Everybody requires different things. If you require the color red and I give you the color blue, because in my research, blue for me helped me, then that's not going to help you. But if I give you a tool that allows you to create whatever color you need to create, that is the beauty of brainwave entrainment. It gives you the ability to create whatever it is you need, not whatever it is I believe you need. Because I
Well,
don't know you, you know you.
well, if you're again, let's take it back to nature. One of the things that starting to be proven is that nature entrains a person based on the seasons, where we are in the galaxy. I mean, the entrainment happens, and one of the things that we've disconnected from is that entrainment to nature that keeps us in tune with the way life works. If we're not in tune with the way life works, we can't manifest. The nature changes all the time based on where we are in the galaxy, and yet sounds like what you're doing doesn't change. So if it doesn't change, how can it stay natural?
See, you're making a lot of assumptions when you say we and us. Because I don't believe anyone can actually say we or us legitimately, because again, they only know the universe based on their own experience. They don't know it based on others' experience. And again, my work allows you to optimize your brain. That's the intention I have. Your brain does all the heavy lifting. It's your mind that does all the heavy lifting. So when things are changing all around you, that doesn't matter. That's evolution. That happens anyway. That's nature.
Do you shift
Your
to what you're
ability to
doing?
deal with
Oh,
that. Well, it's your ability. I don't have to shift what I'm doing because what I'm doing is the exercise. For instance, you go to a health club and you do sit ups, push ups, and weights, right? Does that mean that a year later, because you've gone every day now and you've spent an hour doing sit ups, push ups, and weights, does that mean all you can do now with those muscle groups is more sit ups, more push ups, and more weights? Of course not. It means that all the muscle groups you've worked on, anything they can do, which you may not have done at all, but anything they can do, they can now do better because that's a muscle group. They are capable of doing it. They can now do it better. That's what brainwave entrainment, when it's properly engineered, does for you. It exercises the muscle. So when you need that muscle to do anything else, it's available to you. We don't
so
have to exercise you with, a universal gym so that you can do a universal gym. We just exercise your muscles in general. So anything they can do, they can now do more effectively and more efficiently.
so we've been talking about what we're doing for the brain here. What about the body? Is there anything changes in the body?
Oh, definitely. Neurotransmitters, endorphins, hormones, all these things get released and they get transported all throughout the body. The brain and the body, while we're human beings, at least, assuming that is what we are, they exist in unison. There is no separation between them. So, what happens with one happens with another. I have people who are exercising more now physically because of that. I have systems designed to help people to exercise more. I have systems that are designed to help people exercise without exercising.
How do you come up with the systems?
Needs. People ask me for certain things, I do research. And then I use my research and I use intuition and they use various other factors to help me come up with techniques and technologies that would be useful and helpful. Then I test it on a beta test. And if I get 70% results that are beneficial, I consider releasing my system. If it doesn't give me 70% benefit, then I don't.
So where do you research for this? I mean, it sounds kind of out there a little bit.
The research is everywhere. Originally I went to libraries and I studied medical journals and neurological journals and quantum physics and perception and psychology, and it's all there. It's just a matter of putting it together. It's like pieces to a puzzle. If someone, it's a matter of perspective, right? So if someone looks at a situation and all they see is a puzzle piece, a single puzzle piece, they may not recognize that as a puzzle piece. But if they back up and back up and back up and back up, they may see 500 puzzle pieces and go, oh, this is a puzzle piece. Now I can start piecing it together.
Well,
That's what I do.
it's time for us to take another station break. Please stay with us as Morry and I continue to explore brainwaves and manifestation. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Can one control this beastie? This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. We're continuing our discussion with Morry Zelcovitch. His website is mindtrainer-pro.com. Morry, let's talk a little bit about manifestation. Okay. I I think it's everybody's favorite topic is who doesn't want to manifest what they want, right?
Yeah.
So how does can we control this? How does brainwave entrainment translate into being able to manifest?
So it's all about understanding, as far as I'm concerned. At least that's my current understanding. So everything that I have in my life now, I've manifested. Everything you have, you've manifested. Everything anybody has, they've manifested. If they accept that, and again, maybe they don't, but if someone chooses to accept that, like I have, then that gives me incredible power because now I know if I do different things, I can manifest different results. If I'm not making a lot of money, I can now make a lot of money because I know that what I'm doing is manifesting lack instead of more. And that's the real trick here. So, what brainwave entrainment did for me and is doing for me is it taught me that my thoughts are powerful. And originally, I thought, well, first of all, I thought money is the root of all evil, and I don't want to be thought of as evil. So surprisingly, I had no money. Then I thought, money isn't evil. It's some people are evil. So I don't need to worry about money being evil, but I still don't know how to get money. And there's not enough money for me, and there's no money, and I'm poor. And that was my view. Then I started doing the brainwave entrainment as I started developing it. And I started thinking to myself, I'm driving in my beat up car and it's bouncing around because it's in terrible shape and the muffler's broken and the tires are half flat and all the fluid levels are crappy. And I'm sitting beside a woman driving a Mercedes Benz, and she's dressed beautifully and she has nice skin and her nails are painted and she just looks amazing. She's driving this beautiful new car. And I thought to myself, what makes me different from her? Why do I have nothing and she has everything? And I thought to myself, well, it must be because we live in different worlds. But if we live in different worlds, how come I can see her? Well, maybe our worlds coexist. Okay, so if our worlds coexist, then maybe I can learn something from her. Instead of being jealous of her, I can actually observe her and study her and learn from her. And that's what I decided to do. And that's what brainwave entrainment allowed me to do. Because before it, I had all these in cement views and thoughts that were immutable. And it was the fact money is evil. People who have money are bad people.
So you're talking about judgments that we hold.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Or that I was holding, because I can't talk for your judgments if you have any. But I realized that it was my thinking that was making or manifesting my existence. So then I had a problem because how do I change my thinking? Because now I've been thinking for decades and decades a certain way, and I've manifested what I've manifested. And even if I understand that it was my thinking, do I really have another 40 or 50 years to spend changing my thinking to manifest something different? So I was pressuring myself, and how am I going to do this? And can I do this? As I was listening to the entrainment more and more, I started seeing things that I wasn't seeing before
You mean things about yourself that you had been
about
thinking?
myself. Yeah, and about ways of thinking, and that manifesting doesn't have to take 50 years. See, my original perception was because I became self-aware that I manifested my crappy life. But I became self-aware suddenly. It felt like suddenly, which made me think, "Oh, well, it took me 50 years to become aware." It didn't take me 50 years to become aware. It took me moments to become aware. It didn't take me 50 years to manifest my life. I maintained what I manifested for 50 years. See, it altered how I was thinking about things. My
So it
way of
made your reframing.
holding me back. That's right, I was
Mhm.
reframing. And once I realized it didn't take me 50 years, I suddenly realized, well, hey, I've got this career that has started up because it saved my life and has turned into a career. How do I grow this career? Well, it's not going to take me 50 years to grow it. I am going to manifest business partners. I'm going to manifest the right people with the right connections who do this stuff, find it, find it's beneficial, are heroes of it, like I'm a hero of it, but have skill sets that I don't have. So I manifested a team. In a matter of a couple of years, I manifested a team of experts and
So
people with
let's back
contacts and connections.
let's
It's
back up.
incredible how fast these sorry, but it's incredible how fast these things can happen when you get your head around it didn't take 50 years to do something just because my perception originally was it took 50.
So if you're trying to manifest something and you changed the way you were thinking about it, what kind of change do you make in order to step out of the judgments and beliefs that you have that are limiting you to opening that up? I mean, can you do that without micromanaging and creating the same problem?
That is not easy to do, and you're right. That's part of, again, getting into belief systems that are non-serving. When I finally realized that I was making up reality, I was making up the laws of my universe, and those laws were limiting me, it simply became a choice of changing those laws. I'm the one making those laws. I'm the one who decided to believe all this stuff. I decided to believe something different. I
Is it a
decided
stair step kind of thing where you kind of have to walk yourself out? So I'm going to exchange these laws because they're limiting me for a new concept of laws that end up limiting you. That you end up having to weave your way through all that until you don't have any laws.
that's pretty insightful, actually. Yeah, because that's pretty much what happened. I created a new set of laws, but that follows the same paradigm that I had before, which means if these new laws are no good, I'm screwing myself even worse again. And then came the realization that I don't actually need to have laws. I don't need to follow rules. I can actually manifest whatever it is I want to manifest simply by directing my attention there.
So what does this do to intelligence?
It allows one to experience and use their intelligence. Good questions, by the way. I love the questions. I love the challenging. It's very, it's nice. It's energizing. But yeah, it allows you to use your intelligence. I think too many people don't use their intelligence. In my experience, that's my observation at least. And everyone has the ability to use their intelligence. It's just a choice.
So if we what about emotional intelligence, okay? Because again, we're kind of focused on the brain here, but what about emotional intelligence? Does it start to work with that as well?
Everything changes. Perception changes. Everything about life and the universe and existence changes. For the longest time, I was thinking to myself, I'm 63 years old now, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, what if I had realized this in my 20s? I wouldn't have had to go through depression. Who knows where my business would be already? All these different things. And then I realized, it feels like yesterday that I was 20. Time is meaningless. Time doesn't exist. All there
We
is
sh-
now.
we sure put a lot of labels on age, don't we? It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So changing gears just a little bit, Maury, what's the
Sure.
quantum mind that you speak of?
So again, quantum, in the terms of quantum physics is nothing exists until it's observed. So quantum mind is, why not choose to observe something and bring it into existence that way? Reverse engineer. Instead of thinking that nothing exists until you observe it, why not choose to observe something? And by virtue of choosing to observe it, bring it into existence itself. That's the quantum mind, breaking everything down to its most basic level so that you can rebuild it as anything you want.
And this happens with the mind.
It happens automatically. It happens anyway. It's just that we don't, or I don't, I can't say we, that I didn't put my intention behind it. I accepted what I was hearing on the outside. And by virtue of that acceptance, I had the self fulfilling prophecy. Because I accepted it, I created it, which just made me believe in it more.
It's amazing how self-fulfilling prophecies can just
Oh,
stop us in our tracks, can't they?
no kidding.
So, how can brainwave entrainment aid personal evolution?
Again, I think it aids personal evolution because it helps one to be in touch with who they truly are. We have sensors built into us, happiness sensors and unhappy sensors. And most of us, in my experience, think when we're unhappy, that's bad. But I have since changed with brainwave entrainment. It's given me a whole new outlook that unhappy is just as good and valuable as feeling good is. When I feel good, I'm thinking to myself, well, if I feel good, I'm thinking and doing the right thing for me. If I feel bad, I'm doing and thinking the wrong things for me. It's a warning system. It's not a punishment feeling bad. It's telling you something is amiss. Change what you're doing, change what you're thinking until you feel good again. I believe we're, pardon me, I believe we're supposed to feel good all the time. All the time. That's why it feels good.
Isn't there a lot to be said for that joy and sorrow sine wave? In other words, that if you're not willing to dip into your sorrow, it's going to limit how much joy you experience.
If that's what you believe in your universe, then all the power to you. If it serves you, I am not going to argue with that. In my universe, that's not how I think. In my universe, you're supposed to be happy all the time. You don't need to have that black to see the white. You don't need the darkness to see the light. You just need awareness to see it. You need to be grateful all the time. In my world, I do not need to experience pain so that I can enjoy pleasure. I can
Isn't there a f-
enjoy pleasure all by itself.
isn't there a fine line between that and denial?
In your world, maybe, not in my world. It's not denial if I feel good. If I feel good,
Well,
I feel good.
we're
I'm
about
doing
out
the
of
right
time,
things.
and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, Morry, what's your mission?
My mission, I spent 40 years wanting to be dead. Now I want to live forever. My mission is to help others to help themselves, either out of feeling the way I felt or so that they never have to feel the way I felt.
Well, that's definitely a worthy mission, particularly in a world where there seems to be so much suffering. From what you're saying, it might be needless.
I would like to think that that's at least my current understanding, yes, that it is needless. And all we need to do is change our attitude and change our belief systems to understand that it is needless, and then it goes away.
Well, unfortunately, Morry, we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated the opportunity.
My pleasure. Our guest this hour has been Morry Zelcovitch, the world's only certified brainwave entrainment engineer who pioneers transformative techniques that unlock the mind's potential. To find out more about Morry and all he has to offer, visit his website, mindtrainer-pro.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. But please be sure to join us here again on X Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, where this mission will continue, bringing information, resources, and support to our rapidly evolving world.